Yes, Madeline.
What do you call it when you're looking at a body of water and it's kind of by the ocean, but you're not exactly sure what it is?
I don't know. What do you call it?
You call it sort of the sea. Hello and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your man. I'm never going to understand MMOs, even though they don't want me to call it an MMO, host Madelyn.
I'm your extreme surfboarding host, Emma.
And thanks for tuning in to this week's show. This week we're talking about a little game that can definitely be captured in 20-ish minutes called Destiny.
Yep.
Maybe you've heard of it. And Sword of the Sea. Which are going to be hard to mash.
We say this every time, and then we come up with the best games anybody's ever heard of in their lives at the end.
That's true.
So I think it'll be fine.
You do. I don't.
You do.
I correctly say this is going to be hard to mash, and then you come up with a good idea, and I go, yeah, but what about this?
And it's good too.
True. Okay, ready to talk about Destiny?
I'm ready to talk about Destiny.
Okay, so Destiny is a 2014 online first-person shooter from, this is so embarrassing, Bungie.
Bungie.
I really want it to be Bungie.
I don't think that doesn't sound good.
I know it's not. I know it's Bungie, but I
think we should call them Bungie now. You know, but they've lost some of their respect that they got, you know?
Yeah.
Now we can call them Bungie.
I simply cannot.
They bungied it.
I cannot get my brain to read the name of this company and pronounce it Bungie. My brain goes Bungie. Anyway, Destiny, the first one, came out in 2014 for the PS3 and 4 and the Xbox 360 and 1. And of course,
listen
Destiny...
to last week's episode on
cross-platform launches. I was thinking that too as I wrote it down. Destiny did not inspire that episode, although maybe it should have. It was I'm gonna almost say Bungie every single time. This is gonna take, if I have no actual insight to offer, it's because all of my brain power is focused on saying Bungie. It was their first big thing after they wrapped up their Halo deal with Microsoft, and their first in a partnership with Activision. This was a game they originally kind of shopped around to a bunch of publishers, including staying with Microsoft, but Activision let them continue to own the IP. So there they went. And in Destiny, many things. In Destiny, you become just a slave to the game, basically, is really what the game is about. But in more correct terms, you're playing as a guardian in a future world where Earth originally colonized the solar system, and there's a thing called the collapse, so we're all back on Earth, protected by a sphere called the Traveler, and now we're trying to expand again, but there's evil alien things that you gotta fight. And there's a lot of lore beyond that across Destiny and its expansions, and Destiny 2 and its expansions, and 10 plus years.
Their goal was to make a Star Wars level type universe with Destiny. They wanted to make a world that you could tell stories in, which is not really how the franchise has turned out, but that was the initial goal and how they talked about it, at least.
And Destiny, it's another one of those games that it's hard to talk about where we are now in gaming without talking about Destiny, because it's really one of the early pioneers in games as service, and this world of what gaming is now. And even things loot shooters like Borderlands or whatever are very Destiny influenced. So many of the branches of gaming as they exist right now are thanks to this game that, by the way, certainly would not have lasted more than 6 months if it was released in 2025.
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, at this point, Destiny has been usurped by Destiny 2, which they did release like 3 years later, and that has been sort of the main focus of Bungie since its release, right? There's no Destiny 3. Although Destiny is still playable, and apparently a good number of people still play it over 2, is what I discovered, which is fun.
Yeah.
But yes, it is a classic story of releasing in a sort of unfinished, poor state. The Final Fantasy XIV story, you may say. Right? That classic story of it's kind of sucked when it first came out, and then they supported it, and then people were like, wow, I love this thing.
It had enough there to keep the sickos around. You know? Like, it was bad, but... And I think this is a weird thing that these two games have in common, perhaps. Like, the gameplay felt good enough, even if the story and, like, some of the grinding and whatever was kind of impenetrable and bad.
And something I do want to say key that I think makes stuff like Destiny and Final Fantasy XIV a little different than some of the failed online launches of today is they were commercially successful.
Yes.
Destiny in particular was hugely successful financially. And so it was critically that it struggled a little bit upon release. And so there was an incentive there to improve it and continue to add upon it and build it out into something better because people had bought it, right?
Yeah. Well, and also, right, notably, people had bought it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Destiny 2 is free to play, but the first Destiny and its expansions were paid, and that's a really different economic model.
Is Destiny 2's expansions not paid?
Maybe they are. I don't know. The base game is free. In fact, no, there's definitely some payment involved because they just had like a big everything is free
I mean,
situation.
they definitely have microtransactions in there.
Certainly.
But for some reason, I thought the expansions were also like...
I think they are. I think that they are paid. But still, getting people hooked enough to buy the expansions...
Yeah.
It's just a different model. It's a different model than many of the things that come after. Especially in terms of kind of, upfront player investment.
Yeah.
But yes, that is an important note. And it's interesting to think about, too. I mean, it's impossible to translate this and take it to now because the market is so different, naturally. Or like, not even the market is so different, but like what we would expect of a game like this is so different. But yeah, it's so much more crowded now that it's hard to think of something that wasn't a critical success being a commercial success, at least in this zone of game.
I feel like it's like honestly, like Cyberpunk is the closest modern example to something like this where it was a commercial success, and not quite a critical one, not as much as they wanted it to be. And then so they continued to work on it and update it, right? But Destiny especially, like, despite its commercial success, they missed out on bonuses because it was during that time. Their internal productions had it at like a 90 Metacritic, and it was like in the 70s somewhere instead. And yes, it was during the time, they probably still do this in some places, but it was very much during the time where it was like your bonus for working on this game was tied to it hitting a certain Metacritic threshold upon release, which, like, bonkers.
Yeah.
System.
A lot of stuff about Destiny that feels, I mean, not totally old school. Obviously, many of these things are still happening, but that feel like something that we now frown upon, that is now would become much more of the story of the game than it was then.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, Destiny, as detailed in It's got a Jason Schreier piece about
It's got
this.
a classic Jason Schreier piece.
It's like so...
You gotta love it when your game has the Jason Schreier write-up.
But like a bunch of it came out there, in the like Activision lawsuit thing, right? Just a lot of documentation of how difficult the development process of this game was. Mm-hmm. Obviously in a way that resulted in a lot of crunch, which...
I mean, it's surprising to me that there was only discussion of like there being crunch on Destiny at like the leaks, the somewhat semi-recent leaks, when you can read that Jason Schreier article and be like, oh yeah, they were crunching.
Yeah.
Like, it is just like, they don't directly say it, but it's like, yeah, they must have been really cutting the wire there. It's pretty obvious from what was going on.
So what happened here is they started work on Destiny, like full studio, all in, after they finished Halo Reach in about 2010-ish. And worked on it for several years, put together what they called a supercut of the game in like 2013. It's a 2-hour slice.
The writing team specifically put this together.
Mostly focused on like the story elements of the game. And basically, leadership hated it. They were like, this is awful. This is not, like, we don't find this interesting. Critically, we don't find this to be something that players can progress in like, an order that they choose. And so we're going to do none of this. And this was a game that was slated to come out in 2013. So, disaster situation. One that is hard to... It's hard to imagine how you get to that point and they're like, we're going to trash all of this. None of it is what we want.
I mean, it seems like the development was very siloed into its departments, which is probably not what you should do most of the time.
Yeah, probably bad.
Because it really does seem like the writing team came in, was like, here it is, and the director and the bigwigs were like, this, what do you mean?
What is this? So that's bad. That's a bad situation to be in. I mean, whatever. Like, on the other hand, this is a game that was not cheap to make. This is an expensive game. This was also a game that they were like, this is like the next big thing that the studio is doing, right? This is the future of the studio. So in that regard, I understand we're seeing all of this come together and it sucks, and that is simply not possible. Like, we simply cannot proceed like this.
For what it's worth, the article does cite several staff members who seem to have varying opinions on whether it actually sucked.
Sure.
There's some people who thought it was good. There are people who thought there were good pieces, but it's sort of been like changed a lot over the course of development already, and so was sort of messy, and there are people who thought it was bad. But for the project lead specifically, the issue did seem to be that it was a linear plot, and they really wanted the game to be more, you can pick what missions you go on when you want to, and can see things progress in a sort of out of order fashion, which is very much not what this supercut was doing.
So they started over narratively anyway.
Yes. Sort of.
They strongly adapted what they had.
They took a lot of stuff that existed, models and levels and scenes, and just sort of like puzzle pieced it, Jenga'd it into like something that balanced somewhat. Because they'd spent a lot of money on stuff, so they couldn't just like throw it all out.
Well, and they've got a publisher,
and there are parts that they're like, this level's really strong. Where can we put this level somewhere?
Yeah,
outside of the plot that it was supposed to be in, and so on. Which is just like, what a task to put on yourself.
In some senses, it's a miracle that they were able to put out something. Like, it's a testament to the strength of the team there. And granted, some bad people on the staff here at this time. Like, sexual harassment happening.
Yes.
Crunch bad. Like, not good. But, like, yeah, unbelievable to be able to be like, we're going to cut and paste this into something else and have it still come out as something that people wanted to play.
The story, for what it's worth, was the most negative point. It is pretty much incoherent. I think I really liked something. This line kind of goes hard, like in isolation.
Yeah.
From the Jason Schreier article, this used to have Peter Dinklage in it. I think famously giving a really bad voice performance.
He was replaced by Nolan North. They claim, and probably correctly, they claim because of schedule issues. But I'm sure if he had been better, they might have worked harder too.
Yes, at least people really did not like his voice performance. But anyway, the line goes, "The sword is close. I can feel its power. Careful, its power is dark."
Sick.
Like in isolation, that's poetry, man.
Yeah. That's the stuff.
But yeah, like people were looking at the story and looking at trailers that had been put out previously and being like, wow, that's not in the game. Or like they've used this model for a different character.
Yeah. Now, here's what I want to say. Here's a bold take about MMOs from someone who doesn't play them.
Okay.
I think it's probably a good thing. I think that ultimately the sweet spot of making one of these games is the players have to feel kind of bad about playing it. You can't stop, but you've got to feel and I think having a story in the early days that's kind of incoherent, that you can eventually weave into a lore so dense that people have to release like 10-hour lore recaps for like the closing of Destiny 2 they did sort of recently to even sort of bring you in, and that it's like it's too late for your friends to start playing Destiny and understand anything really to be happening. I think you actually kind of want to have started with a story that's an absolute mess. I think you want that. That's my hot take, because then the players sort of feel like I'm playing this game against my own will. And that's what you want from one of these online games. That's the feeling you're trying to capture. I certainly agree with
that. I think that is the emotion behind gacha games.
Yeah.
It goes back and forth. I don't know about MMOs generally. You did bring up an interesting point about Destiny is, yes, if you're starting Destiny or Destiny 2 now, you cannot just play through like the campaign as it was when it released. More so with Destiny 2 than Destiny. I think most of the main expansion content for Destiny is still available in the form that you could have played it at launch. But unlike games like Final Fantasy 14, where yes, you can play through Heavensward for free, right?
Or whatever. Level 50 or whatever it is.
Whatever it is now. But you can start from the beginning of the campaign of Final Fantasy XIV and play through and catch up to where it is now. Destiny 2 has just, like, excised parts of the game that used to be there. So if you pick it up now, you can't, like, start at the beginning of Destiny 2.
And they have been recently doing sort of a soft reboot. So, like, yeah, maybe this is a time you could start. But wow, it's always so interesting. I think Destiny, more than many games that I have ever read about, are games that are like, people are like, I have played thousands of hours of this game and I hate it.
Yeah, people who play Destiny seem to have complicated relationships with Destiny.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, right? I don't know. I'm trying to think of in other genres like what that is. You know, like reality television, but not like this, right? It's such an interesting phenomenon to me. Because there are things we hate watch, or like books that we read even though they're trash. Mm-hmm. Like maybe if you were really into comics, like maybe that doesn't feel, comparable on a cultural scale at all. It's just fascinating how some of these long-running, like I feel like XCOM gets some of like similar kind of vibes sometimes, or even like, you know, certain harder core like roguelike type things. It's like, oh, I hate it. Like, it's awful, but also I've spent a year of my life playing this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and with MMOs, it is a social thing as well for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true.
Which does provide like like you could go to a club you don't really like because you have some friends there, right? Or whatever. You go to a party that you're not really into, but you want to see people you know. That sort of a thing. Sure. That's what playing Destiny is like a little bit, I assume, for some people.
Yes. It's just also interesting to, like, several of the pieces I read from, like, various Kotaku writers who've been into Destiny over the years are like, most of my friends have stopped playing it by now. Or, like, I'm trying to get my friends to come back. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh God, like... It's interesting to me as someone who's totally on the outside of this, who will sometimes have feelings like this about like a Balatro or whatever, but not like this. And not in a way where I'm like, I actually hate it. Fascinating. And I know they don't actually hate it. Anyway, do you know Paul McCartney worked on the soundtrack?
Fun.
Isn't that crazy?
Listen, I don't know.
Anyway, there's no way in my life I will ever play Destiny.
No. I mean, it's just too complicated at this point. Like, I just keep bringing it up because it is an interesting point of comparison. But, like, theoretically, I could be like, yeah, I'll play Final Fantasy 14 if I ever had, like, the motivation to do it. Because I can actually start that. Yeah. And then play it. And it makes a logical sort of sense, even though it has MMO stuff going on also. Right? Like, theoretically, there's limited time events that maybe I've missed in 14. Yeah, but in this, it's just like, who knows what's there, you know?
And despite it all, people like the story now. Or, you know, like however they like anything in this.
Well, it's because a lot of the expansions of Destiny was taking parts of the story that they'd excised and sort of reframing them and putting them back in. Which is, again, very interesting. But people, the Taken King expansion, I think was the second of Destiny's 3 big expansions, was the one where people were really starting to get on board with it. And I know that Destiny 2 has had expansions that have been positively received. I don't know if it's kept to like the non-linearness that they really wanted in the first one.
Well, it's moved into much more of like a season model, so it feels like it cannot have.
Yeah.
But it just it shows the power of a shooter that feels good.
Yeah.
Because this game really hung on of like, oh, the gameplay feels good. And to some extent, in reading about that restructure, it does seem like they were like, actually, that's more important than anything else. And that's true. You know, that's true with these types of games. And that's like a prescient thing that I think, despite the mess of what they created in doing that, like, has held true over the 11 years since this game released, is that it actually doesn't matter how good anything else is in these types of games. If the gameplay doesn't feel really good and you don't have from the beginning enough of a loop of like, come back, come back, come back, which Destiny really kind of pioneered in a sense, right? I mean, not like very first, but was an early success in the like, you've got to log on every day, buddy. Mm-hmm. And that's everything now, mm-hmm. right? So it's like incredibly formative to where we are, for better or for worse. And I think that ultimately, despite the human cost of it, they were probably right to say, gosh, the gameplay has got to be right here, and we will carve up the story to whatever it needs to be to make that happen.
Anyway, good luck to Bungie on Marathon.
Oh, right.
Which is not going well. So We'll see.
Ah, well.
I'm pretty sure that was supposed to launch this year initially.
Oh, God. Team-based extraction shooter.
Yes.
Have we not enough of these?
With stolen art.
Yeah. Yeah, unclear. That release date.
I mean, it does not have one now. I know that. I feel like at some point it was supposed to come out this year.
They announced that it's been... Well, they did originally say September 23rd. And then that was delayed. And they said they're going to announce a new release date this fall. Sony seems to think it's coming out before the end of the fiscal year in March.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes for you, Bungie.
How's Helldivers 2 doing? Sorry, that's just on the thing. Is that dead yet?
Nope.
Crazy.
Well, I think like that game managed to find a unique enough niche.
Yeah.
And that's why it's managed to live. Anyway, shall we talk about Sword of the Sea?
Yeah, so speaking of games that are all about it feeling good.
Yeah.
In such a different way.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that's the piece, and what a useless mashup piece. I'm like, oh, the game feels good to play?
You're right, we should definitely make a mashup where the game feels good to play.
Boy. Okay, anyway, Sword of the Sea came out this August. It's an adventure game from Giant Squid, who made Abzu and The Pathless. It's art directed by Matt Nava, who is
just
the art
directed. This one is just directed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say it's directed by Matt Nava, who is the art director of Journey, which is sort of the, it's the fourth game in that set of parallel experiences, right? They aren't actually tied together.
That game company has made other games also.
Sorry, I'm saying these games live in a certain Journey-esque, Journey-like, Journeyvania genre. That's what I mean to say. Anyway, it came out in August of this year from Giant Squid for PlayStation 5 and Windows. The Pathless came out in 2020. I played that game for the podcast. I liked but did not love The Pathless. So I did not play Sword of the Sea. I might.
I played Sword of the Sea because it was free on PlayStation Plus.
Oh. I missed that.
I think I talked about it 6 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
It was good. I liked it. Basically what you do in this is you are the Wraith, I guess. I don't know if they ever refer to you that in the game, but that's what I've learned by reading about it. You play as the Wraith. And you have a cool sword and you surf on it. And you surf through this big desert with the goal of sort of returning water to it. So you sort of transform the desert into instead a sea through performing 6 skateboard tricks and other such things. And then you continue to explore using the marine life and your new skills. You get different skills as you go. You can collect like little pieces of currency that you give to this weird guy with a big thing on his back that eats him. And then he gives you like hover sword tricks. So, very cool.
Did you play The Pathless also?
No,
okay.
I did not.
I was curious. These are games that always sound very cool to me on paper, and like I like the idea of. And The Pathless, and granted, the movement in The Pathless is a little bit different. The Pathless, like weirdly, hate to say it, weirdly, The Pathless is a little bit like potentially a mashup of these two games because, I mean, it's like very lightly pulling from Destiny, to be fair, but like it being a little bit more of like a shoot targets situation. Unfortunate. Too bad. But
this does feel like it's taking a bit, like obviously a lot of the like pre-release interviews with Nava was talking about like, yes, he's going back to the desert.
Yeah, orange again.
But it does obviously also take a lot from Abzu, which was underwater, and you're restoring the marine life in this. And there's a bit of The Pathless in the character designs, and there's some parts where there is like a bit of like target shooting as well. So it is kind of like they've taken a lot of the experiences at Giant Squid and beforehand and sort of made a whole game out of it. And also with like SSX thrown in.
Right. It's an interesting challenge to have made a game as iconic as Journey and want to continue to make games that are sort of similar, huh?
Yeah. I mean, they're different in lots of ways, but yeah.
No, I don't mean I don't mean that these games are actually similar. He talks about this in some interviews about how over the course of the 10-ish years since that, he's felt like despite being an artist who is drawn to certain things, right? He's felt like he had to actively lean away from making anything that looked like Journey because it was so iconic, and it was only with this game where he was like, all right, like, this is what I'm excited about right now. He says there was a quote in, I think, an Engadget interview where he said, I'm going back to the desert because I have way more ideas that we couldn't do in that game. It's like I've been living in my own shadow for a long time in a weird way. It's like, why am I doing that? I should just be who I am and continue to explore the art that is my art. But it's like funny to think about the box that you end up in when you have a game that's on the Wikipedia greatest games of all time list.
Yes.
Because even if you find things exciting about, like, none of these games that this guy's worked on or the games that Giant Squid have made are that long or big. No. You could probably make 10 Abzus or 10 The Pathlesses, and you probably shouldn't. I felt like The Pathless was fine at the length that it was, and I felt like this was fine at the length that it was. But you could probably make games that exist in those worlds, or that use those mechanics in different worlds, and people would say, oh, this is fun. But, like, if you make a game that is that iconic, you kind of can't, even if you have other ideas.
Yeah. So a lot of Sword of the Sea was sort of inspired by extreme sports and movement. I can't remember where he talked about this. He was talking about, like, activities like this are often, like, very tied up in, like, danger, right? And, like, failing.
It might have been Eurogamer. I read an article in Eurogamer that was kind of about this.
Because I think he was talking about Abzu too, and it was like he went scuba diving, and usually in games it's like, oh, you got to manage your oxygen or else you'll drown down there or whatever. But, like, when you're actually scuba diving, the way that you sort of do it recreationally, like, you have more air than you could ever need. You're just kind of chilling in the shallows, right, and enjoying the ocean around you. And that's sort of this, but with snowboarding as well, of, like, things that games like to make stressful and instead making it more like a way to connect with the environment and sort of even be a little bit spiritual.
As someone who has never skied or snowboarded, I read that and I was like, sounds fake though. I was like, there's no way that's meditative. I've played enough video games to know that there's no way.
I bet it's not that meditative when you're, like, very first starting. Well, and then it can get that way, you know?
Yes. I'm not joking. That is the reaction that I had. But I understand that must be the case. It was just interesting to me reading it being like, no, though. Like, my experience of it is with video games where I have been trained to think, oh, it's stressful.
They did apparently at first, one of their first versions of it, this was in the Guardian article, they had a lot more, like, Sonic type stuff with, like, boosters and, like, grind rails and, like, stuff like that. And he was saying, like, they played Sonic Frontiers and it was like the Bizarro World version of Sword of the Sea. If they'd made, like, every opposite decision.
Yeah.
On what they did with their mechanics, which is, it's funny to think about that way.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, kudos to them because it is hard to think of a skateboarding functionally game that doesn't have that.
I mean, you can grind on stuff in this, and there's ways to go faster. There's not really, like, boosters. Part of it is you can either play it very exploratory or you can play it really fast. There's definitely built-in desire for you to play it more than once and to play it in different ways. Those different methods, which is interesting. Because once you get into like the flow of the movement, you can get through things pretty quick, right? Yeah. If you're not just like sort of sliding around looking at every corner just in case there's little extra bonus things over there. And there are also like you can find like little hidden arenas in the world where you like try to get as many points as possible by doing tricks and stuff. But those are just like for more of the little currency things that you use to get more skateboard tricks.
You gotta give the people a little Tony Hawk.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I read something interesting in a Rock, Paper, Shotgun overview of the game that I'd like to put in front of you.
Okay.
Do you think that flow is actually a capitalist state?
Give me some context. I'm curious for the take.
Okay, here's the quote.
Okay.
I am, however, mistrustful of the game's familiar, therapizing recourse to, quote, flow as a vehicle for personal liberation and healing intimacy with, quote, natural landscapes. In the years since Journey's heyday, quote, flow has been much criticized as a psychological state amenable to capitalist cultures of steady productivity and consumption. In his book, Against Flow, Video Games and the Flowing Subject, for example, Braxton Soderman discusses how celebrations of flow put the emphasis on individuals fixing, or at least coping, with problems that require collective organization and effort. It's an Ian Bogost-ass take, I gotta say. But anyway, go on.
That's not, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd be interested to read more about that. I think of flow as more, like, I don't know, is meditation a form of accepting capitalism? Maybe.
Well, there's a passivity there,
the
perhaps.
The self-care, I do feel skeptical about, like, self-care and stuff. There have been some interesting critiques of cozy games floating around recently that I think maybe fall into a similar sort of vein as that. We talked, maybe I talked to somebody else about, like, I think that friction can be useful in games being memorable, right? And giving the player too much power. But I don't know if that really has to do with flow. I'm too far out from my game studies to really have a reflection on flow, I think, maybe.
So, having reread this quote, I wonder if what's really being gotten at here, and there's probably broader critiques here, but what jumps out to me is the connection between flow, not to be like, oh, let's talk about Giant Squid's games in particular. This is true in other games too, but like the 3 Giant Squid games, Abzu, The Pathless, Sword of the Sea, are all in this ethos of let's have some really good feeling movement and a game that's sort of about nature and restoring or appreciating the natural world.
Yes.
Right? And it is interesting to think about, okay, though, flow is about, like getting in the groove, like feeling comfortable, feeling immersed, and not really experiencing very much friction. I mean, every review of Sword of the Sea is like, there's almost no friction here, right? You fail, who cares, right? And that's why it's good.
I did get a little frustrated towards the end a couple times when I failed. I'm going to put that out there, but yes.
Sure.
There's a lot of buttons you have to remember near the end.
Yeah.
It was a lot for my tiny gamer brain, so.
Fair enough. Still, throughout much of the game and throughout much of the ethos, it being very focused on, like, and I felt so about the Pathless, actually, to in some senses, like, it was something that I didn't love about the Pathless is the movement felt great, and I felt in that game there was actually not a lot else going for it, in my opinion, which is why I did not jump on Sword of the Sea, although maybe I will, who knows. But it's interesting to think about the connection between that sort of flow state, which is inherently involving a certain level of passivity, and not in like a bad way, just in a, like, you're in it, you're not fighting against it, and what it would take to actually restore the natural world, which is really not that.
Yes, yeah.
there is a tension between this like flow of nature, one with nature, restoring the world narrative, and in the real world, the like friction that would be required to do that. And that's not, I don't think it's the responsibility of games to tackle that.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. It is interesting to think about how that like often appears in the context of these kind of like nature-y focused games, that sort of particular ethos or approach. And how it comes out of natural cycles, I get it. But
I mean, there's also just missing. You know, like I feel like there's an artistic tradition of that going back to like Walden. Right? Sure. Of just like,
blame Thoreau.
It's all Thoreau's fault in the end.
Ultimately, it's Thoreau vein, a Walden vania here.
Or even like what's the word for the thing where you go to like a house and like focus on your art?
Like a retreat.
A retreat. There's like a official name for these sort of things, I think. Sure. For like art getaways that I'm just not remembering right now. But like that thing too of where you're like supposed to like go out into the natural world and then you can like focus on your art, right? And like just sort of this idea of like the healing power of nature and how much we should write about nature and stuff too, which doesn't really get into like like, yeah, you're out there appreciating nature, but like, will this nature be there in 50 years?
Yeah.
That there's, you know, there's an artistic tradition of like, let me go out into nature and learn from it and then go back to my city and burn the midnight oil writing.
And this is a very beautiful game. I mean, they always make very beautiful games.
Yes, it is. It is quite beautiful. Yeah. And you can ride on flying animals. Sea creatures.
Turtles.
Sharks.
I think that what I'm discovering about myself, though, is I like a flow state in a game, but in the sense of I like to sometimes be in games where I want to play them for several hours at a time. And less so, I don't know, I don't always respond well to games where flow is the major element.
Yeah. I mean, I would not call Sword of the Sea like my favorite game of the year or anything. Sure. Although, I don't know, the competition is not that fierce right now, so...
They just released a new Katamari game, so easy answer over here.
But,
which they did not have in physical copy at GameStop, by the way. I was pissed.
Oh, sad.
Cashier didn't even know what I was talking about. He was like, Katamari reroll? I was like, no, you dummy. Once Upon a Katamari. Which is actually, to make this, sorry, I'll let you finish in a minute. Which actually, to make this relevant, like, Katamari is the flow state that I want.
Sure.
Right? I can play that game for ages. I get into the zone of it. There's friction.
But I did very much enjoy my time with it, and I found it fun. I did not, like, play it again, right? I didn't find it that fun, but that's a high hurdle for me, so that's not really its fault. But we've talked before, like, about, like, cozy games, too, and there's games that we find cozy that don't fall under, like, the stereotypically, like, cozy aesthetic, the games that market themselves as cozy.
Yeah.
And some people do find those sorts of games cozy, but it doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
Right? And I do think that can be similar with flow, is you can very much aggressively pursue a flow state, and that is going to work for a lot of people. And then there's people whose brains work differently and find a flow state in, I don't know, Pom Pom Party. Perhaps.
Yeah, Cabaret Club. Yeah, Little Freaks. No, it's interesting to me to draw a contrast between this and Ollie Ollie World. For me, Ollie Ollie World, if you don't remember, it's chill but also difficult, like skateboarding, rail riding, 2D situation, basically. It's interesting to draw a contrast to me between that game where I am under severe stress at periods of time, but the feeling of like getting a great ride where you like get into the zone and you're hitting it right and you're grinding the rails and you have like that perfect run where you finally do it. And the feeling of pursuing that, like I was able to play that game. I had 2 into that game, right? And the movement in that game also feeling like really great in a way that's very different from this, but it has a task associated with it.
Right.
And my brain needs that. There has to be a task. I don't want to just explore in a video game. Which is funny because I do
have tasks still.
Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Not written out tasks, but you do. You do things.
But it's funny. I do like just like walking around neighborhoods in real life. So it's who knows what's going on up there.
True.
But it's interesting to me to think about which of those 2 games appeals to me. Because this game, yeah. It's like, oh, like actually the movement feeling really good might not be, and the game being really pretty. And granted, it's like a 4-hour game, so yes. I would probably enjoy the experience. But that's for me not enough to hook me in the same way that it is for some folks, I think. Anyway, speaking of games that are gonna feel good and hooky and make billions of dollars and have people say, "Oh, I hate this." What's our mashup? I'm relying on you.
You're relying on me. I still, after talking and looking into Destiny and watching Destiny, I don't know if I fully have a grasp of like what Destiny is, unfortunately, which will make this task a little bit harder.
Yeah. You shoot things, you have missions. There's a lot of
Forspoken.
War. It's in space.
We make Forspoken.
No. No.
Am I not right?
No.
No.
Can't be that. It's gotta feel good to play.
It does. That's people like the movement in Forspoken. That's why I bring it up.
Okay. I mean, really, it's what will inevitably be Giant Squid's next game, which is a space Abzu.
Sorry, nobody can ever make space feel like flow statey or cozy to me. Inherently too scary. Sorry.
I hear you, but I do feel like that the natural mashup here is they've done underwater, they've done sort of green, abandoned.
Sure, I get you.
World.
I'm just saying they're gonna fail because space is inherently too scary. It must either be funny, goofy, or really scary, or dystopian. That's how I think about space. It's not cozy.
You don't feel that way about under the sea, the ocean, though?
Like deep under the sea, yeah, sure. But only when like light stops coming in.
Sure. I think that's I'll just say I feel like that is the easy mashup here. The easy mashup is inevitably Giant Squid will make a space game.
No, I think that's a valid game. That's a valid game that could
Emma
exist.
won't be getting it.
And
won't
I
work
disagree
for her.
with its existence.
But
I mean, one other thing they have in common is that they both got characters with like names, you know? Like the wraith,
Emma,
the ghost,
listen to yourself.
The skeleton, the shadow, the crow, you know?
Okay, here's what you just, I mean, yes, I'm glad you clarified it. Love that the first thing was, here's our mashups. Gotta feel good to play. Characters with names.
With like proper noun names. Or not even proper noun names, you know?
As opposed to what?
Madelyn's not a noun.
That's okay, fair enough. I like the energy of that. Sure, the characters in our thing can be, you know, they can have weird names. Yeah.
Yeah.
Noun names.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. I got nothing for this one.
Let me see if I can come up with like one other thing. I think Space Abzu is pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to come up with something weird to offer here. What have I got to offer that's weird? I mean, somehow an MMO that is about, like, cool movement.
I mean, that game company's current game is Sky.
Oh, yeah.
I believe. Which is an online multiplayer game. And I think is about flying. So they've sort of done that already.
Dang it. Okay.
When I say that game company, by the way, if you're not familiar with them, that's the makers of Journey, and that's the name of the company. I'm not like refusing to say their name for some reason.
Yeah, it's not.
Their name is that
the game company that must not be named. Okay, that was my best bet. We make a game, like a 4-hour game, but it comes out and it's got like, we release 20 lore tomes with it. Doesn't really matter what it's about. It's just like, this is a game that's impossible to start.
Yeah, okay. You are a little book person.
Okay.
And you have to find like the answers to what your story is. And so you're sort of navigating through books and words, like discovering lots of lore, looking for your lore.
Oh, that's kind of cool. It's a little brainy. I don't know how well it'll do, but that's
we'd have
cool.
to concept it some more to think about what it actually looks like. But something like, I think bringing in the lore part, bringing in the exploring part.
Okay.
Something
bringing
with
in
that.
The Destiny development cycle of, we got a bunch of stuff. And we have to put it in an order that works.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, I can dig that. Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
Are you a Destiny player? And can you explain to me the weird, like, I hate it. It's almost like people who are fans of, like, the New York Jets. Right? Like, it's if you're fans of a bad sports team, but you still have season tickets. That's what it reminds me of. Anyway, can you explain Destiny to me, people? I didn't even attempt to Madelyn's lore corner. There's just too much. That's more than I could have done. Can you help me want to be in a real flow state? Do you think that flow is capitalism? If you have thoughts about this or anything else we talked about this week, hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games in the hat coming in a minute, and read our blog featuring our Emma's like thoughts. Maybe someday we'll do split screen again. Who knows? We're never going to finish My Hero Academia. I don't care at this point.
It's finishing.
Really. I know, but we're never going to finish.
Let me get through school.
Okay.
And then we'll revisit it.
Yeah, Emma's got to do actual school before she can do hero school. But most importantly, if you enjoy the show, you should subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Cast, wherever you can find podcasts. Subscribe to Talk This. It's Emma's side quest next week, spooky no doubt, but what are we talking about in 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks for our old game, we're talking about Terraria. Okay. And for our new game, we're talking about Drag X Drive.
Is that Drag Drive or is it Drag X Drive?
Good question.
We'll find out in the next 2
weeks. Or is it
weeks.
Drag Cross Drive?
Ooh.
Drag Times Drive.
We'll look forward to finding out with us how you pronounce the title of this game in 2 weeks. But listeners, that's it for this week's show. Thanks for tuning in. Emma, sign us off.
This week, I hope that your flow is only good for you and not your employer.